of that with like 12 pulls and stuff, but given that Solar has no idea who he's up at, he knows Harsterm, but maybe build order wise he probably won't know. But here, spawning in the top left, playing for team TSG, it is Solar.
And he's gonna drop a hatch down just off to the side, blocked by the probe of our red Protoss player. In the bottom right hand side, it is Harsterm.
Now, one of the reasons that he did take that third by the looks of it, or rather natural as his third, is because Harsterm was indeed blocking it with a probe, which, you know, that's a fairly normal thing to do. Do you scout with a pylon, or...?
Yeah, pylon. You have to send your probe a little bit earlier, so you can put the pylon right when it's been 100 minutes. Normally you just rally your fucking probe, but here you send it a little bit earlier, you can get it down right away, and then you can get there right in time.
There, I can hear you a little bit. They just turned you up, sort of, and
that's good.
I'm quite thankful for that. So, starting off, like Kairos Junction, this is a map that's been in the pool for a while. Is there something that's you're likely to see from either one of these players?
Immortal pushes are very strong on this map, or aggression in general for Protoss adepts.
Is that because of like the short rush distance and such? Okay.
In turn for the Zerg, Zerg players usually like to veto this map, unless they like playing Swarmhost. Because this is quite a good Swarmhost map where you can hit a lot of different bases, and it's also very short, easy to rush across the map.
I guess there's also a lot of cliffs, right, where you can launch a Swarmhost from behind, and then they'll be very safe, while the Locust obviously deal very good damage on good bases.
Yep.
Now, so Harsterm is starting off very, very normal here, like a Nexus, chrono boosting out an Adept. The Adept is like a little bit for safety, seeing if you can get a scout off, maybe a probe kill or two. I know Harsterm likes to be a little bit dangerous with the Adept. Now, depending on what he follows it up with, you get a few players that like to go for a Stalker afterwards, but Harsterm going for the second Adept. Now, what do you think about this kind of play?
I think it's, once you get the hatch block down, going for the two Adepts is very powerful because the bases are so far apart, there's no creep connection connecting them. So you're at least going to force out a lot of links from the Zerg.
And a Twilight Council follow-up to start off things. Now, I know that a lot of Zergs have been very vocal about robo openings in general, but a Twilight Council opening here, do you think this is going to be some kind of like DT?
It's either DT or an Adept play. We'll see if the robo comes down with the next 100 gas here.
Harsterm's actually one of the guys that really likes Adepts, I feel, compared to like a lot of other Protoss players in Europe at the minute. So
it's a robo comes down, so it should be a DT build.
I know for a while when Neve came over and started destroying the Zergs, it was like Adept builds could come, like any kind of build could come from this kind of opening. Now, Solar's doing a good job of just making sure that he doesn't receive too much damage. Yes, he loses the Lings, but honestly, that was quite a nice hold by Solar. Doesn't really take any real economic damage, and now he's just droning up like a madman.
Yeah.
Oh!
So it's going to be Adepts. This could be just like a straight up adding 4 or 5 gateways and just exploding. Or it's like a 3-gate play and then it transitions into... could be transitioning to Stargate, could be transitioning just to a third base, into a normal...
By Stargate, do you mean like double Stargate? Oh, we see 4 gateways, so it's exactly what you talked about. That 5-gateway explosion, the Robo, now that's probably going to be for a Warp Prism, and then just trying to reinforce your units and such.
Yeah, he's even pulling out of gas in the main base, so it's probably going to add like another gateway or so, I think. But 6 gateways is probably fine.
Now, the Overlord's flying in here. Now, he wants to check out, like, if the saturation's good, whether there's gases being made, because he's trying to get scouts off here, there, and everywhere. The main base is blocked by a Stalker, which is nice play by Harsterm.
Yeah, good to get that deny off. There's another Overlord, though, so...
Yeah, this could be a tell with the fact there's only 2 probes in this gas. If he picks up on that, that's a pretty big tell that there's something funky going on.
Something amiss.
Yeah.
So the Overlord does fly in here. So Solar, it does look like who will be able to get to spot on this Twilight Council upgrading and being chrono boosted. So now you know immediately something dodgy, something is going to attack you. Now that Roach Warren is close to finishing. Do you think that's a little bit too late, or do you think he's going to get away with this?
I think it's a bit too late, actually, because the Depth's going to start shading around, and once they start shading around and you're trying to catch up, it gets very hard. But if you can like force them to stop shading from the beginning, then it's a lot easier.
I mean, it's a large amount of Zerglings, but these Adepts with the Adept upgrade, they deal significant damage. So he's going to be chasing these shades, and no, they're not going to be done, but this is a big reinforcement in the natural. The Roaches are out. I think Solar's done a good job of buying time, but this attack is by no means done. Oh, the Queens are actually on top of that Warp Prism there.
He's going to come in with the Adepts as well, but the Roaches and Lings are already here, so this should go kind of okay for Solar. And I think the Warp Prism did die to those Queens, so...
That's a huge deal, actually.
Big loss for Harsterm, and this is definitely not done anywhere near what he wants. I mean, Shade's back to the low ground, but Drone's already pulling away. This is a huge hold from Solar, and obviously now Solar has...
Losing the Prism is a really big deal, because with the power of this build is that you keep sending Adepts to different places. The next wave goes here, the next wave goes here. But when you lose the Prism, it's just like you only have these Adepts, and just killing like 8 adepts isn't that hard.
I think Solar did a really good job there of like keeping the roaches in the right place at the right time. It's very hard to know like whether they're going to finish these shades or whether they're going to truly commit. But he had the roaches, as I said, in good places. And the fact that the Warp Prism was so forward, you see a little bit of frustration in Harsterm's face here, because losing the Warp Prism just means that no longer a reinforcement's going to be a trouble or a problem. And for the Zerg, that just means an easy hold from that point up then.
Yeah, especially when you're doing this build. Like losing the Prism, if you're doing some sort of harassment-based play, it's like it hurts, but it's not as bad.
Where is Harsterm playing from,
I
by
know,
the way?
right?
What is this?
It looked like a
basement somewhere, or like, what the hell?
The second basement, like I've never even seen before.
An undisclosed location production just told us.
He's not even here, he's back home.
Harsterm will be here. He is on HomeStoryCup. We don't know where he is exactly, but...
He's just coming for the drinks later.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all do, really. But Solar, he looked very cool and calculated that game. And I mean, we talked about like the Roach Warren maybe being a bit too late, but he had so many lings. He seemed like he was all on top of that scouting with the Overlords, kept checking the gases. And once he spotted like the number of gateways, he seemed very well prepared for that.
Yeah. I actually think I would have preferred for Harsterm to let the first shade finish. The first one he cancelled, if he let that finish before the roaches popped. And then the second wave goes to the third base. It becomes very hard for Solar, even if he has roaches, because the roaches don't really kill them fast. They're more just there to like force them to not fight in that location.
Right. I mean, that is one of the significant things. If Adepts get on top of drones or Zerglings, they deal tons of damage. Against the Roaches, it becomes a bit more of a brute force situation. Now, second map of the series, this is Acropolis, correct?
Yes.
And spawning in the bottom right, sorry, I'm a bit far away from the monitor. Spawning in the bottom right as our teal Zerg this game, it is Solar.
And he is, of course, up against the red Protoss on the top left-hand side, Harsterm.
Now, given that this is one of the new maps in the pools, what do you think about this for ZVP specifically?
Given that Zergs kind of tend to go into longer games these days, it's what we prefer. I think it's a good map for Zerg. It can be a little bit annoying versus certain DT drops because the main is quite big, so it's a lot of ground to cover versus early Archon drops. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty good Zerg map because distance and the bases are fairly close together. It's easy to defend Sellout weapons and stuff like that. So.
And does a pylon scout still get there before the natural can go up? Or?
No, here you have to send it before the pylon.
So it's, I guess, economic wise, Protoss can feel a little bit safe not necessarily having to probe scout. Like, they don't feel forced to do that. Oh, look at this camera. Harsterm Inception right here.
I like it. Harsterm's changing the camera meta.
I'm continually asking this to pro gamers, like, how do you feel about the new maps? Because initially when looking at new maps, you know, we can all be very vocal about how much we hate them and stuff, and oh my god, slow zones, oh my god, mineral walls and stuff, but honestly, the new maps, I've been pretty, like, happy with how they've played out and such. I don't feel there's, like, overwhelming imbalances and what have you.
Yeah, Turbo Cruise is the one that really stands out with the slowing fields. It makes it very different from any other thing we've ever seen.
Do you hate it, though? Or is it just different?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the thing. This is the first time we've seen them, but honestly, it's just... I'm very distracted by Harsterm's spinning face. But honestly, it's one of those things that I knew there was a lot of outcry, a lot of outrage about it, but I've kind of enjoyed the way that the map plays out. And the thing is, if you didn't have those slowing fields and such, I still think it would be like a pretty good map, the way that it plays out.
Just a bit short rush distance, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if it is a short rush distance and we have slowing fields, I think it's one of those things for map makers. If you can have something active for maybe the first 5 minutes, then they just drop, you know? Yeah. To kind of like work on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I actually talked to them about make them destructible and stuff, like very difficult to destroy and that kind of thing, to make the game, like, map change as the game goes on. So that's something that I like talking about. But what's actually really interesting is that for the next map contest tournament we have, the maps are going to have, like, it's going to be like the same category again. So we might see more slow zones. So
I actually quite like them. I don't know if it's because I'm a Terran player and I like the tanks in them. I like the fact that I actually experimented a little bit. If you build like a barracks inside those slow zones, it's exceedingly hard for like drones to kill the barracks. So like proxy Raxes are very good. But I also for like tank lines and tank pushes. But it hasn't really felt like it's truly benefited one race above the others. Yeah. Which I think's always nice. One thing that I would love map makers to have a little think about, though, is when you could stop a jump location with just one building. I know it doesn't matter in Zerg too much, but like Terran versus Protoss, where you can just block the one jump-in location on that right side, that little line with a pylon, that hurts, man. Because I always feel like if you do block a jump zone, it should be like make you somewhat vulnerable later on. You know, like a chunk of buildings there and such. But we do have a Dark Shrine this game, so this is a very, very standard DT drop from Harsterm, it looks like.
Yeah. And Solar got the link into the base, so he got the full scout. He didn't see the Dark Shrine, so it could technically be like a gateway explosion, but from the timings of the Robo and the Twilight Council, it's fairly obvious that it's TT, especially with only 2 gateways in the wall like this as well.
Right, and the Overlord sees the double gas being produced at this time, so,
Yeah.
you know, Solar's a good player. He's going to know absolutely, like, most likely what's coming. The Roach Warren's decently timed. The Lair is on the way too. A lot of you might be out there going like, where's the spores? Where's the spores? But no, he's absolutely waiting until the last minute that he has to make anything, because those drones, they want to be mining as many minerals as they can right now.
I feel like the Lair is maybe a little bit late. Like, are you getting a spore for this? This is good. Because if there's no spore in the third base and he just warps in 40 Ts to the third base, he can actually snipe it before the Overseer. So
yeah, he was like, he just had it timed out, I think, to the absolute second here. Because, like, yeah, I'm panicking. Like, oh, goes immediately into Archons as well.
This is just like Harsterm respecting Solar to be prepared. So he's just like, I don't think he needs to do anything. Right? Yeah.
And the thing is, he is prepared. Yeah. Like, he's made the drone. So, like, in Harsterm's head, once he gets there and he sees his spore, he's like, okay, I made the right call by making them Archons.
Yeah, yeah, because if you go with DTs, you have to pull them back, you have to work with Archons, and then you lost like 30 seconds of harassment like this.
Right, and right now he's killed a drone, or rather killed a queen, going for the other queen as well. I mean, these Archons are getting a bit bruised, and while they're not going to die, and you might be like, okay, that's really, like, strong, that's really cool. This is nice by Solar, because now those Archons can't continue to be such a nuisance against the queens and such.
Yeah.
Nice little counter as well. Going to get cancel on Pylon. DT had to warp in at home, so Harsterm kind of spending some extra gas that's not going into that next kind of layer of tech already.
So, as a Zerg player, you're looking at this, right? What are the weaknesses that you see in the Protoss play? Like, is there anything that you try to expose, or is it just about getting more ahead economically?
Usually it's just about taking as little damage as possible and squeezing out as many drones as you can, while finding out what the follow-up is going to be. Yeah, like Ling counterattacks like this are good. Ling drops can work too.
Well, these Archons, though, getting some damage, gets a queen and no board.
Losing queens early on is actually super annoying for this Zerg, because that hurts your creep spread later on a lot.
Ling drop, by the way, outside the main base, I do believe. So Solar, he definitely isn't like comfortable with just sitting back and being like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. He's all about putting on that pressure. So the Overseer to kill the DT at the third base was nice, getting the drop open, and then putting up the Spire behind all this too.
Yeah. This is a pretty common response these days, just getting the Spire and scouting for... Sometimes they can go crazy and just drop like 5 more gateways and just go for it, but here we see the Forge, Sentries coming out, so he's gonna... If he's going for a push, it's gonna be slightly later. But most likely he's gonna see Harsterm probing up his third base and trying to scout with hallucinations to find out what's going on.
I just looked at the production tab then, and it was 8 Overlords in production. Now, I don't know if those were laser Overlords, like he just felt like he was too supply blocked, or whether it just means he's going to be like bum rushing out a ton of units.
It might be a little bit of both, I think, because after you've made your drones, it doesn't really matter, but once you go into Roach production, you need Overlords anyways. But he doesn't really quite have full saturation yet, so...
Now, Harsterm, I don't know how many sentries he necessarily has out to do like hallucination scouting for that Spire. He has 3, so he can be doing it.
Yeah.
Now if this guy spots out the Spire, that is a big deal. And is he heading right to it?
He is.
That's a big, big deal for Harsterm.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Spire is kind of nice here because there's no Stargate opening, so you can't immediately make Phoenix.
Yeah.
So that's one of the nice choices from Solar here. So Harsterm has to make 2 Stargates right away, and his probes are really derping out. So the second one didn't build.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for... That kind of reminds me when you're a Zerg and you're trying to build a spore in your middle line.
Yeah.
And
then you have an idle drone, you're like, where the frick are you? Oh, I ordered you to do something. But this was like, obviously it was a decent scout by Harsterm, but there are now 8 mutas on the field. And now Harsterm has the advantage of it being a larger map, so it would take a while for these mutas to arrive. But still, not having the ability to immediately defend against these with like Phoenix or cannons. Yes, he has the drop in the Warp Prism, which does meet the mutas instantly now.
Yeah, this is a very good response. But the problem is that like you don't know as Protoss how hard they're going to commit to mutas, so you kind of have to get the Stargates. But in this, like if Harsterm had complete information, he would have cancelled those Stargates because there's no real commitment to mutas here.
Yeah, I mean, as we're looking at this, right, like it's not a massive commitment. And I mean, Harsterm has to respect the commitment.
Yeah.
Just because he can potentially just straight up lose. But Solar, he's up to a very good work account. Like, super good. He's pouncing on the sentries here as well. Pouncing on the High Templars. This is super nice. And also, look at his work account behind this. 80 drones with 4 base saturation.
Yeah.
This was awesome. He got a High Templar kill. He forced an Archon morph, so there's no Storm Energy really available at the moment. And now he's just switching into those Hydras. And obviously, the one thing you really want against the Hydras is that Storm, because it helps so much to bring them down when they're already so squishy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what Sora's going to do here is just going to max on you. Oh, he's actually getting Hive, so he's just going to play the long game, it looks like. what's hurting him from before is the fact that the creep spread got very limited by the Archon drop. When you're playing a long game as Stark, you really want the creep spread to be able to set up good defensive fights.
He's doing a really good job with these mutas, though. Like, I don't think he's, or he might have lost one or two, but now the Phoenix joined the field, and I mean, that muta count will be thinned out quite some. Now, is keeping the Phoenix alive, like, a very, very good thing for later on? Like, what do they... Oh, wow, and Nidus, by the way.
Oh, that's... So he's going to try to pounce on the 4th base, I guess. Put the Nidus in the back and hit the 4th base at the same time. That's what I would assume this is.
I was about to ask, like, does keeping these Phoenix alive, does it play, like, that much of a role, or is it just like, okay, I can't ever go air, really, in this situation?
Yeah, it's more just like they only want them for the muta, so now they're kind of... You can clear out some overlords like this, right? But in general, they're not going to really do anything from this point.
Okay. This is kind of a scary army. I mean, Harsterm, he does have Storm available, he does have Archons, and he does have Immortals. So that definitely does work against this, but this Hydra count is nothing to scoff at. I do believe he has range finished already, which means the Hydras definitely do more damage, but I definitely like the way that Harsterm's playing. He's defending well by the looks of it. Yeah. Good cannon placement, and quite a lot of them too.
There's a Warp Prism heading into Harsterm's main, or Solar's main as well. You see what that can do. I would have preferred to Solar to keep the mutas at home. That's usually what I do when I have like 3 mutas left. I send them home to look for Warp Prisms. Because, yeah, this can be very annoying.
No, I mean, this is definitely going to slow down the push. And the fact is, Solar's at 200 supply already, so his army doesn't necessarily get much bigger or stronger. Whereas Harsterm, he's the one that's trying to buy time. That's what that Warp Prism does. But this is a large army at Harsterm's 4th base, and he's already got a very good concave on this. Nidus's as well to help back up the army if he does so please. But Harsterm, he moves into a good location, does fend off this attack.
Yeah, it just gets there in time as DT goes down as it chases the Yami. Nidus is really nice, right? Because those units that had to like help deal with the War Prism, now they're suddenly on the front line so they can help out right away. So that Nidus is really coming in useful here.
Yeah. I would like Harsterm to start up like an Oracle or two, just to keep tag of this army. Because when he's swinging back and forth like this from the 3rd to the 4th, if he's out of position, he can lose base quite fast. So use an Oracle to keep tag of the army is...
This is one thing that's always very reminiscent of Harsterm play, though. As soon as he feels he has like an inch, he'll start sending around Zealot attacks here, there, and everywhere, and just rally them from his base, just making sure to buy time and somewhat. And like you see Solar, he doesn't actually mind trading out this supply, because he is getting Corruptors behind this, and he obviously has a pretty darn good bank.
Yeah.
And you see, again, he's just trying to find little holes, using the Roaches just to like snipe a High Templar or so, and then behind it, again, Corruptors, throwing down Nidus networks here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. I'm really liking Solar's play this game.
Feels like Harsterm's very slow to come over to this left side. Like his army just started moving over. Yeah. Like he was almost over-prepared for the 4th base attack.
He's making the Oracle now, but I would have liked to see it a little bit earlier, so like this stuff doesn't happen.
Storm only hit a couple of Hydras. That's a bit of a better one, though.
Yeah. And Solar is preparing a Broodlord transition, but Harsterm is also prepared. He has to Fleet Beacon. But he needs to kind of stabilize at this point so he can get some money to actually spend on Stargate units.
Yeah, Harsterm actually hasn't been able to get past 150 supply this whole game. And like Solar, I think he's been utilizing his army very well, like the trade-outs. Where are the Broodlords morphing, though? Because if he's going full-out defensive, it feels like this is the start of his rally where he's just going to keep on marching across the map, correct?
Probably, yeah, he's just going to reinforce with Corruptors from here. And he's trying to bust with the Broodlords. Harsterm is getting Tempest, but...
Oh, look at those snipes on the High Templar too. Those are great.
He's been so good at that throughout the game. Like first with the mutas and that, like this now, and that's so frustrating because that's so much potential Storm energy gone, and that makes this entire thing, like this entire hold, so much more difficult.
I really am loving these reinforcement Niduses that he's scattering around. You know, like even the creep spread helps for your units moving a little bit faster as they pop out. But now things get very scary. Are there any Tempests?
Yeah, there are 2 Tempests out, but I feel like that's not quite enough. There's 1 out. You kind of need like 3 or 4 here to actually deal with it, because the Grapplers can just kind of dive on top of this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing. The Archons are getting totally surrounded here. Remember, this is only the air squad of Solar, and the ground squad is marching into that 3rd. You see Harsterm kind of moving around, a little bit demoralized here. The Corruptors are